everybody. Welcome to our DCDS Alumni in Finance and Business panel. We are joined today by 3 alums right now, and one will be joining us shortly. She's coming from a meeting, but we're super excited to have Aaron, Sahar, and Raj here today to chat with us about their careers, how they got their jobs, things like that. So I will kick it off to them. Aaron, why don't you start? If you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your class year at Country Day, your college, and what you do now, that would be great.
Great, thank you. Aaron Hodari. I was a 2005 graduate at Country Day. Started there in first grade and went to University of Michigan. And I currently work at a firm called Schechter, which is a financial services firm based in Birmingham, Michigan. We do insurance work. We have an investment advisory where we do wealth management. And then we have a direct private equity group as well. I run our investment advisory and private equity group.
Thanks, Aaron. Sahar, do you want to go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sahar Umrani. I was class of 2007, so overlapped a couple of years with Aaron. And then I went to Yale for my undergrad, and then Michigan for business school. Currently, I actually work in a different flavor of finance. I work for a fintech company. So we build technology for financial services companies, specifically wealth managers like Aaron's firm. But before that, I was working in venture investing, which is another flavor of finance, where I was specializing in investing in fintech companies, which actually led me to where I am today.
Hey everyone, I'm the old person on the panel. I'm Raj. I graduated in 1999. I went to the University of Chicago for my undergrad, and I went to the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern for my MBA. I work in Boston at a firm called HarborBest Partners. We are a global multi-strategy private equity firm. I focus on something called secondary private equity investing. Without going into all the details, which I'm happy to do today or with anybody individually, we're kind of the stub hub of private equity, providing liquidity solutions to holders of illiquid private assets.
Very cool. Okay, thanks, team. Okay, so let's go back to square one. So what are 2 to 3 things that you guys did in college that looking back, you feel like were really key into helping you get where you are today? And then beyond that, what are some things that students can do outside of just general classes to help set themselves up for success? And really, truly hoping to get into the weeds here. So if you have specific details, that's great.
I'll start. This is really tough because it's such a chicken or the egg thing, right? It's, financial firms always want to hire people with experience. And so how do you get experience? It's a tough spot to be in. I would say, one of the greatest things my experiences was, well, first of all, I thought Country Day was way more valuable than Michigan. So you guys are already doing great. But I remember going to every kind of networking event on college campus and the interview and job fairs. And I remember, going to the table for a firm called Bear Stearns, no longer in business. But, and I, was, the woman who was there was really nice. And she's like, you seem like a great guy. Let me see your resume. And I showed it to her and she said, you have no experience. I said, well, how do I get experience? And she basically said, go knock on every financial firm's door in Ann Arbor and find something, right? You got to just get something on your resume, no matter what you're doing. And so I did. And I found some financial advisor who was like, sure, you can push paperwork. Right. And so I got something on my resume, right? The next thing is everything you do, you need to be learning. And so when you're, doing mundane tasks, just because it's, what the task isn't that interesting, you need to be absorbing that information that you're seeing and learning along the way, so that, one, you get value out of it, but 2, as you kind of proceed in your career, everything you've done has added value for you. So Bear Stearns came back on campus, saw the woman 3 months later, said, look at my resume now. And she was great. She helped me out, got me, interviews at Bear Stearns, ended up getting me an internship at Bear Stearns, summer of 2008. And for those of you who don't know, that was right when Bear Stearns went out of business. Luckily, I was able to find another internship and build my career in finance in New York. But just you got to do something. You got to ask around. You got to network. You got to be willing to do anything and learn along the way. So that's my answer.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. I love that. Before we go to the other questions, Sydney, hi, thanks for joining. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, give your class year, where you went to college, and a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. And sorry for being late.
No problem.
I'm Sydney Kiritan. I was DCD class of 2012. Went to college at Yale, studied economics, and after that worked in banking for about 5 years. And about a year ago, joined Jazz Venture Partners, where I work now. I'm a senior associate on the investment team, and we are a venture capital firm investing in early stage startups, mainly focused on health, well-being, and human performance. But yeah,
Awesome.
excited
Thank you.
to chat.
That's great. Sydney, we are just talking right now about 2 to 3 things that you did in college that you feel like really were key and instrumental into helping you get to where you are now. And if there's anything that you did outside of classes that you feel like was particularly helpful, we're just going over that. Sahar, do you want to jump in next?
Sure. What Aaron said really resonated with me, because I remember applying to internships and being like, why isn't anybody picking up my resume? Because I'm sending it into this black hole of the internet and no one's talking to me. So networking is definitely key. And then college is the best time even to do free labor, as Aaron talked about. The other thing I would stress is I actually used to say, I want to go into business when I was at Country Day and not knowing what that meant. And so when I got to college, one of my advisors was like, you need to actually figure out what role, what do you want to actually do? And so networking, not for the purpose of finding an internship, but in the beginning, just to be like, what are the roles out there that interest me within this sector? I started to make an Excel spreadsheet of all the companies that I thought were interesting and then all the roles that I thought would be interesting to me too. And some of them would be ideal roles. So maybe they're your stretch goals. So then you can kind of work your way backwards. So if I want to get to this, I want to one day be like a CFO of a company. What do I need to do in order to get there? And so you kind of network with some individuals who are in that role, take a couple steps backwards, and that helps you organize, okay, maybe these are the types of first step jobs I'm going to apply to, because this is the kind of the direction I want to go to. As you can see by this panel, there are so many different things you can do in finance. So really narrowing down and being specific not only helps you with where you want to go, but also when you go to the interview, you sound more articulate about why you're there and why you want to be in that position.
Love that. Thank you.
I will chime in briefly. I love what Aaron said. I went to a very intense college at the University of Chicago. Everyone here went to, Yale, Michigan as well, all amazing schools. I continue to believe that the most intense and enriching experience of my educational life was my junior year of high school, right? Not because of the content. Dr. Hanlon's going to kill me if she ever sees this, but we learned great content in high school. But what Country Day really did for me personally was make me a really good manager of my time. And, when we have a ton of classwork, you got sports. I spent a lot of time doing policy debate in high school and all the preparation that went into that. It was a real pressure cooker at a very young age. And so for me personally, going to an intense college environment, I felt really prepared to balance my time and do a lot of different things. And in terms of what that allowed me to do when I went to college was really help me use that time to search for internships, cold call people, just really network the heck out of the game. Because the only reason why I'm currently in my current job, which I started 17 years ago in a market that didn't really exist when I was in high school, was from that networking, that constant, just talking to people. And it's not feigning interest. You should only talk to people about things you're actually interested in. And so just having that preparedness, that ability to multitask, that ability to go to your classes, do really well in school, but also use your free time to do enriching things that will open doors for you, is really what I got out of Country Day.
Love that. Thank you. Sydney, anything you want to add? Oh, you're on mute.
I would echo a lot of the things other people have said. Definitely, like, I was really into sports at Country Day, and I also ran track in college. So that kind of like forced time management of like, you need to do well in school, but you're also spending like 3 to 5 hours a day on like something else that's like baked into your schedule. So just like figuring out how to balance, and especially a lot of finance jobs are super demanding on your time, and everything is time sensitive, or everyone likes to think that everything's time sensitive. So just figuring out how to like prioritize is a really helpful skill from both like high school and college. Yeah, I would just add like, to of course networking and talking to as many people as possible. All the jobs I've gotten have been through networking. Just like doing your own kind of like research and preparation, so that you're not just like picking up the phone without agenda, may not be the right word, but like know what you want to come out of something when you're like picking up the phone to call someone, and like do your homework, do your research, have an opinion, so you're not just kind of like showing up and like expecting them to like give you something, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you guys think that there's any publications or people on Twitter or Instagram accounts that are helpful? That I realize that once you get into college, you kind of figure out what you should be doing and reading, but for high school students now, they might not know. What are some good places to start? Like Morning Brew, like what do you think?
That's a tough question. I subscribe to like probably 30 newsletters, and it's like every morning, in my inbox I have tons of stuff. For me, it's very specific, maybe to the industry I'm in, or things that we do. But if you go online and you search a thing you're interested in, all these sites have morning newsletters where they send the most relevant articles from yesterday and stuff like that. And a lot of times it clogs your inbox, so you just hit delete, delete, delete. But some mornings you have an extra 10 minutes and you find good stuff. So I think I don't have a specific publication, but it's just get online and Google the things you're interested. You might end up on a random website and subscribe to the newsletter.
Great. Anyone else?
I'm probably gonna get laughed by saying this, but I'm just gonna say it because I continue to believe it's true. I honestly think Wall Street Journal Online is still one of the best publications. I mean, like, you sort of think about the kid that was like Richie Rich reading his big Wall Street Journal at the dining table. Like, it's not that Wall Street Journal anymore. It's really good online content, and it's been consistent, it's been fair, and their order of like headlines, like I think fairly prioritize the biggest things that are going on in financial services and technology, like who's raising money, where's their great tailwinds, where's there's headwinds, how is like what's happening in the geopolitical landscape affecting certain industries. It really is it actually is really helpful content. And I'm not gonna say it's impossible to simplify some of this stuff, but we'll just give people a more unabashed, unbiased flavor of what's going on in the world that like a lot of potential online news media, on TV news media won't give you. And the other one, which I think again is a little bit more dense and put people to sleep, but I consistently believe also provides very interesting perspectives on what's going on in the world, both industry, finance, but also geopolitics, and sort of ties it all together as The Economist. Leave it to the old guy to quote the boring publications, but those were the two that I would point to.
Thank you.
Raj, I actually got asked in one of my first interviews in consulting what was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that day. So I was going to say the same thing, and I'll never forget that. So I definitely recommend that as well. But I feel like nowadays, even myself, I actually go towards podcasts a lot more. One of my favorites, which is just a really quick snippet of what's happening in the market. Very fun version of it is Robinhood Snacks. And it's just they pick 3 highlights of what happened in the market, or it could also be, a private company update. And it's 15 minutes. The hosts are actually, one of them went to Michigan with me, are super lighthearted, and it's owned by Robinhood, the very famous trading startup. So not so startup anymore. So I think it's great, and it's for all ages. And you hear people who they wish people happy birthday, and they have everyone from middle schoolers listening to it to like senior citizens. So it's a really fun one.
Love it. Sydney, anything to add?
Yeah, you mentioned morning brew. I think that's a really good one, especially when you're first trying to like get your feet under you in finance. I read the Wall Street Journal for like every day for like years, especially when I was like trying to like understand like what's going on, because I was asked in interviews like, what's something you read in the Wall Street Journal that like is interesting to you and why? So that's, I think, still definitely the default. For like venture, there are a few different publications, like lots of smart people that have like Substacks, depending on what kind of like focus or what industries that you're focused on. Axios, Pro Rata, and Strictly VC newsletters I read like pretty regularly. There are like a ton of great ones out there, but they do tend to pile up. But those are like good ones to get like a pulse on like VC deals that are going on, news, stuff like that.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, guys. All right. So going back to like really getting in the weeds here, Aaron, you touched on this a little bit when you were talking earlier, but if you had a finance or business internship in college, how did you get that? Like truly, who did you email? Who did you talk to? Things like that.
So I'll start. I interned at PwC for a summer when I was in college. And depending on where you go to college, many colleges have the resources of sort of holding on-campus job fairs, and you'll sort of get to meet people by that channel. And so mine was pretty traditional. I met individuals from that organization, as well as many others that I applied to, some of which I got, some of which I didn't get. And that was one that was the best fit for me, doing like accounting and audit services for a summer on banks. So I didn't get an investment banking job. I got an audit job to get interactions with many people on the banking side. And that facilitated further introductions, which ultimately got me my first job, which was within the investment bank at JP Morgan. So it was almost like the lesson that I learned is like, it wasn't the job that I wanted. I learned a lot from it, but it also, again, went back to that networking to help you land the next job, which gets you the job after that.
Yeah, I can go next. I interned for 2 summers at Morgan Stanley, which is then where I started full time. And I got the job through like my dad's best friend from college's wife. So I was literally just like trying to like understand like what is investment banking and like talking to a bunch of people. And she was like, oh, I think we have like a sophomore internship we're starting. And that I think is really helpful. Like the earlier you can like get your foot in the door, the better, because like a freshman or sophomore internship is way less competitive than like the junior year when everybody's looking for a job. So yeah, it was through networking and talking to people, but definitely trying to start things as early as possible, I'd recommend.
Anyone else want to add?
I guess for me, I just went to literally every career fair and everything. What happened is I wasn't serious about it until my junior year.
Yeah.
And then it was so competitive that I was freaked out I wasn't going to get anything. And so I think I applied to every single job on the Career Center. I went to every single networking event, emailed every alumni. I played lacrosse at Michigan, so I emailed every single, guy in finance on the, from the alumni network. It was like, I wish I had started earlier, for sure.
Aaron, were you in Ross at Michigan or
No.
LSA?
No, LSA.
What was your major?
I was econ.
Okay, so since a lot of people go to Michigan, and I feel like the career center there can be kind of a behemoth to handle if you're an LSA, did you feel like that was helpful, or was there something else that like you did? Like, was it the lacrosse team that really did help you?
No, I mean, what happened is, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think even, none of you know maybe you think you know what you want to do, but you don't know what you want to do. And then you're going to go to college and you're going to think you know what you want to do. And that's going to change. And people in their 30s don't know what they want to do, right? It's all throughout life, you're kind of figuring it out. And I don't think that's wrong in any way. And that's the tough part about this is you're 18 years old going to college and they're asking you what you want to be. I was pre-med. And I realized that I was reading the Wall Street Journal every day. I was like, why am I going to be a doctor? I don't want to look at people's, bodies all day long. And so I thought that the career center it was not that helpful, to be honest, right? It just gave me a place to see who was recruiting on campus. And then I would have my friends who were in Ross, because I switched to econ my junior year. I think every single class I took the last 2 years was to be able to graduate with econ. But I would ask my friends in Ross who was on campus recruiting. And then I would go and try and reach out to all those firms that weren't recruiting in LSA that were recruiting for Ross and be like, hey, I know I'm not in Ross, but here's my story. I would love to, interview. It's hard, right? And you shouldn't be disheartened, but I'll tell you, when I was going for that first internship, my junior year, I ended up getting a good internship at BlackRock, but that was after the Bear Stearns thing, and that was the only internship I got. Then I luckily was able to pivot to BlackRock. When I came back my senior year for full-time jobs, having that on my resume, it bothered me, because every single job I applied to, I was now getting interviews just by having that on my resume. It was like annoying, and I felt so bad for people who didn't have that experience, because it's tough. And so you got to scratch, claw, and do whatever you can and network to get that first experience, because then it makes everything else easier after that.
Okay. Did any of you have senior projects that were in finance or business when you were at DCD?
I worked maintenance at an apartment complex and cleaned a pool,
Love
which
it.
was awesome. It was a ton of fun.
I did
No.
like marketing, something
Okay.
related to marketing, but I couldn't really tell you what.
Yeah.
I
We did
did
like a go-to-market strategy for a shop in Royal Oak that wanted to go open in Nashville.
Oh, cool. So you
That's
helped
cool.
them with that?
Yeah, I think he now is only in Nashville and doesn't exist in Royal Oak anymore.
Okay, that's interesting. So did you kind of like create that yourself, or was it like a specific ask that this person was looking for?
It was an ask. He said he wanted to go to Nashville. And so to help him identify a market for him to enter in Nashville.
Very cool. Okay, thanks guys. All right, so if you have interns or currently work with them, what are you looking for in your interns? What do you think students, and you can also draw on your personal experience, what do you think students should do when they are an intern to get the most out of the experience for themselves and also for their employer?
So it's funny, I was actually at a conference yesterday. It was one of my first ones since all of COVID. We partner with a third-party organization called SEO, Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, to access interns with a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion. And so we started our internship program last year, and it was wildly successful. I mean, taking a big step back. I mean, I graduated in '99, so it's been 2 decades since I've been competing with these individuals. The quality of people that are out there, the focus is just exceptional these days. And so that's all of you listening to this panel. So that's awesome in terms of the ability to access great talent. And so my view is that when people come in through these internships, they make it through the interview process, they've got good grades, good test scores, good experiences, and are really interested in these jobs, the intellectual horsepower to do any of the jobs we do, and not to trivialize anything that anybody does on this call, is not, it's not brain surgery. We're not medicine. We haven't gone through years of residency and training there. And so I really simplify it and really dumb it down as to the people that do great in internships. There are associates that we hire out of college that make it to the next level. We call it vice president. It's all the commonalities for me, and it's two things. It's effort and it's attitude. That's it. The people that have made it past round one to round two and built their careers, at least within our organization, are those that rise to the top, and that are the people, are they hard workers? Are they going to persevere when there's challenges? And are they going to do it with a smile on their face? It sounds really simplistic. It's like lessons that we learned in middle school, but you'd be surprised to find how many people are really intelligent, but maybe a little bit entitled and don't put in the effort, and maybe take challenges in a bad way and, turn that smile into a frown. And it's just miserable to work with those people. Just very simplistic answer to a very loaded question.
Yeah, love it.
I would completely agree. It's the I'll do anything attitude, right? I will sweep the floor if I have to. If a client's coming in, the floor is dirty. So every single other person in the company should be willing to sweep the floor. And so you need that attitude is so critical, especially in internship. I think Raj, alluded to it, but you're not working on crazy, awesome stuff all the time. But do you care? Are you doing it well? Are you doing it on time? Are you responsive if people have questions? One other thing I would recommend, responsiveness is critical. We hired a guy last year who was so smart, but he wouldn't get back to clients, right? It might take, and then the client's calling me and or someone else, and responsiveness and being a good team member are critical. One other thing I'd add that I like to see in anyone is curiosity, because you can go online and you can read all these resources, but as you become an expert in whatever field you go into, you're not going to get it from just reading. You're going to get it from asking people around you questions and being nice. And people generally want to be helpful. If people at the company you're at don't want to be helpful, it's probably the wrong company. But curiosity, asking questions, being proactive with stuff like that, I think is really important as well. Assuming you have the basics of having good attitude and working hard.
Thanks, Aaron. Sahar, Sydney?
I agree with all of that. I would just add, I tried to think about what is something that I could do to make my boss or my associate or my analyst or whomever I'm working for, how do I make their life easier? Whether it's there's a research report they don't have time to read, if I could read that and summarize it for them. Is there I don't know, something I could help them with, and really just showing that you're making an effort to be proactive and to add value, because as an intern, you're not going to be, sometimes legally, there are restrictions on what you can do. So just thinking about the little things you can do that can be helpful.
Great.
One thing I'll add is, I love what everyone's saying about when you are an intern. The other thing you can do when you're trying to become an intern is think about the skills that you have and how they could be transferable to the job that you may not have experience in, but you can take what you did in your sports team or a group project and transfer that. Whenever I work with individuals on their resume and they're like, I'm not qualified for this job, we can actually probably wean out a couple experiences where what you did for a totally different industry or something for school is going to come in handy for the job that you're applying for. So definitely look at the job description or talk to people at the company and really understand what they do. And then think about your own experiences and see, have I ever done anything sort of similar? If there's data entry, maybe you didn't do financial data entry, but you did data entry for a science project and you know how to use Excel. Make sure you're highlighting all of those experiences, because that just indicates that you get what the job is and you're going to be a quick learner because you have some experience.
That's great. These are all really helpful tips. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to your current jobs now. Tell us how you got your current jobs, and when thinking about applying for a full-time position, what should someone or a student expect in terms of preparation for an interview?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I have to say something that is not answering that question,
That's okay.
but it somewhat goes to the old one. I just want you guys to know how lucky you are to be at Country Day. When I think like all of us were here because we had such a great experience at Country Day, and the skills that you're learning, you know, apart from what you're learning in history class, or I can't, Miss Hannah is still there, I hear. So whatever she's teaching you, you know, it's that, and it goes back to what Raj said, it's the organization, it's the time management. All those things are so critical, are going to make you successful in your career, and you got to lean into it. And you're going to get to college, and the subject matter might be hard, but you know how to write a paper, you know how to find the information you need, and that is going to carry you through to your whole career. So go home tonight and thank your parents. So as far as I, you know, got my current job, that this was, I was wanting to move back from New York, moving back to Michigan, something I said I would never do, but then I wanted to, and I just started networking, and I got very lucky in finding a firm that the firm I'm at now, Schechter, used to only be in the insurance world. And I knew the guy who was running the firm, and he wanted to branch out and start, you know, offering more financial services. And so it was the perfect opportunity for me to come in and launch our investment advisory business with a couple other guys that came in. But it was all from networking and reaching out to people as I was kind of coming back to Michigan, and just having a good network and being nice, and yeah.
When you say you started networking, can you share like what that meant exactly?
I think life is networking in a way, right? And it doesn't need to be that you're always being so professional with everyone, but, you know, being nice, right? And as you meet people, you know, trying to leave an impression on them in every aspect of life. You know, you never know what's going to come back. So I think it's just, you know, the guy I got the job from, I knew when I was in high school. I actually interned at Schechter when I was at Country Day. I just remembering that, I think that was one of my internships. But just being nice to everyone you deal with, and you know, networking then was just reaching out to people like, hey, who should I talk to? What's going on? Is it, you know, anyone have any roles? And I remember actually when I was home, I went into downtown Birmingham, and I just walked into a couple of financial offices, financial firms, and said, hey, I'm thinking about moving back from New York. Like, what do you guys do? Is there any open roles?
Very cool.
But I think, was that the question? Was there a second part to the question?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
My story is kind of similar to Erin's too, so currently I work for a company called Signal Advisors, which is a fintech, it's a technology company where we are building a financial platform for independent financial advisors. And before that, I was in New York, working similar to Sydney in venture capital investing and in startup partnerships for New York Life Ventures. And similar to Erin, I wanted to move back to Michigan during the pandemic. This was about 1.5 years ago. And so I just started networking as same way Erin did, where first I just made a list of like, what is out there in Detroit that is in, and I was very specific. Like, I like fintech. I like either to invest or work for a fintech company. What exists in Detroit that fits that realm of what I want to do? And then just start telling people like, this is what I want to do. Do you know anybody? And I was introduced, like, I can't even tell you the number of friends I have now that somebody introduced me to somebody else who then introduced me to this individual. And now we're like LinkedIn friends, or we grab coffee sometimes. There's someone I had met in business school who told me he was starting a fintech company. And so serendipitously, it ended up working out. So I joined them as one of the first 20 employees. And now we're at 100 and something employees, which is awesome.
Wow. Very cool. Thank you, Sahar.
So very similar. I mean, like, networking goes back to how I got my job. And I was an investment banking analyst, which is a very common entry level job you get out of college if you want to get into finance at JP Morgan. And I remember I was working in Chicago, and I needed to move to Boston because my girlfriend, also a Country Day alum and now wife, got into med school here in Boston, and I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know any firms. All the Boston investment firms were hiring out of New York, and I was kind of worried. And so I met a lot of recruiters, met a lot of firms, nothing hit. And then all of a sudden somebody at JP Morgan said there was a guy that worked here last year, the year before you started, that that now works in Boston at this little firm called HarborVest. When I was up here for an interview, I met him for a coffee, and he said, "Are you interested?" I had no idea what HarborVest did. I had no idea what a secondary transaction was. Somebody says we provide customized solutions for holders of illiquid assets. I wouldn't expect somebody that interviews for REIT today to know what that means. And so it was all just about networking, but also in terms of preparing for the job. Like I have a little bit more, I'm a little bit more lenient if somebody doesn't interviews for a job here and they don't know exactly what our firm does and exactly what they want to do long-term. I want to find people that know what they're good at and they know what they like doing day to day, and seeing if that could be a complementary fit with what they do. We'll teach them the job and they'll figure it out, and it'll work out long term or it might not. But I want people that are kind of hungry, know what they're good at, and know what they want to get out of the career. And so that's sort of the second part of the question about how you prepare for the job interview. I know a lot of people probably don't like that answer because a lot of people do want someone to know exactly why they want to work at this company for the rest of their lives. I just know that's not true. Like I know whatever I'm going to hear is going to be kind of BS because nobody works for that company, or very few work for that company that they're interviewing for the rest of their lives when they're 23, 24 years old. And so my lesson is, again, network. Candidly, I thought I would be here for 2 years, and I've been here 17 years. And so this will be my first and my second and last job ever, I fully expect. And it was totally by, meeting that person that gave me an intro and gave me a chance at an interview, and, things worked out.
Awesome. Sydney?
Yeah, my story to how I got to my current job is a bit messy is like not the right word, but basically during COVID, I applied to business school, got into HBS, was like super stoked, was gonna go, and then like COVID still was not resolved. So I deferred. And like I was working in investment banking. It's a very like grueling job, especially like working from home, because people know that you're at home. So they'll schedule calls at like 9, 10 at night. It's like, it was not fun. But I ultimately decided to defer going to school so that I could have like the full experience of business school. And so then I found myself like, I'd left my banking job. I wanted to move into venture capital, which is like a weird, it's like a very weird industry in terms of like the process. Like I would say investment banking and private equity, it's much more kind of structured and standardized, like how you get the job, what time of year people are interviewing, like how you like do well in an interview. And VC, because it's a bunch of small firms, is not like that at all. But, was talking to people that I knew, like basically anyone I could find on LinkedIn that I like vaguely knew that worked in venture capital, and got connected with this woman, Megan Reynolds, who was a partner at my current firm. And it was literally just like a casual, like, get to know you. Raj, Megan, she's amazing. And it was like a casual get to know you. And then she's like, actually, we're hiring and like, you seem great. Like, do you want to interview? So I was like, sure. And it ended up working out really well. So it was like a very happy accident, but definitely not like a clean, I would say, pivot the way that I was hoping.
This is the network. I saw
Yeah.
Sydney's name for this panel. I saw her handle, and I was like, I know Megan. She used to work at TPG. I've worked with her on many things over the years. Sydney, do you know Megan? Yeah, Megan hired me. Like, it's like this is like how you develop, like, and it's not just LinkedIn. Like, you got to talk to people, right? Like, have these conversations, like call people. So it's just funny.
I love that. That's great. You guys, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap us up just in the interest of time, but truly appreciate each and every one of you for being on here and sharing your experiences and your expertise. For anyone who is watching this, you are welcome to reach out to anyone who is on this panel via LinkedIn, via email. I have their contact info. You can reach out to me for it. But we so appreciate you guys. You're the best. And thanks for being on.